Hey, second graders, was anyone able to find out the answer to yesterday's question of what is another way of saying 115? Well, if you found out that another way to say 115 was quarter after one, you were exactly correct. And crazy, right now the time is 10:15. So another way to say 10:15 is a quarter after 10. Because the clock is divided into halves, but it's also divided into quarters or fourths. So right now it is one quarter after 10. Today, we will continue to work on telling time to the nearest 5 minutes. So, our learning target for today is using pictorial models of digital and analog clocks. I can tell time to the nearest 5 minutes. And remember, digital clocks are clocks that have just the numbers on them, and analog clocks are clocks that have these faces on them. So as you're watching the video, pay close attention to how to tell time to the nearest 5 minutes.
And so as you're doing it, we do want to instill in our students that convention of AM versus PM. And so decide whether the activity would happen in the AM or PM. So eating breakfast, is that an AM or a PM? Well, of course, it's likely to be an AM, although we got to admit, with McDonald's, now they're offering breakfast all day. So some of these things you can engage in a nice little conversation with your students, parents, and teachers, because some of this might be kind of fun. Setting the table for dinner is another example. In Thanksgiving, some kids might be asked by their parents to set their table in the morning because dinner is going to happen at 2 or 3. But anyway, the idea is let your students talk about AM and PM based on these current activities. So here it says, write the time displayed on the clock and then choose whether the activity would happen in the AM or the PM. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at that clock. And this clock really looks like it is saying it is 7 o'clock, exactly 7 o'clock. But if we are brushing your teeth before school, that makes this an AM activity. So that's 7 AM. And if we want to, we could say, well, what about eating dessert after dinner? So the idea would be, well, we're kind of thinking about after dinner, so that's going to be a PM. And looking at our clock, well, we see that the minute hand is starting at 12. You go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So that's 25 minutes. And we can see that the hour hand is between the 8 and the 9. So we know that that's going to be 8 o'clock. So it's 8:25. And we know it's 8:25 p.m. because we're doing something after dinner. So parents and teachers, again, we're kind of removing the scaffolding. Now instead of reading the clock, we're going to be using our empty clock here to draw in the hands. This is just like that GeoGebra applet I showed earlier. So maybe instead of doing this activity, do the GeoGebra and have fun with it and play with it. Nonetheless, brushing your teeth before bedtime, 8:15. So first off, before bedtime. So that's going to make it a PM activity. And 8:15. So 8:15. Well, let's start by doing the minute hand. That's pretty straightforward because that's going to go here. And 8 o'clock. So it's going to go a little bit past the 8, not to the 9 yet. So that's 8:15. And again, recess after lunch. So the fact that it's saying after lunch makes it a PM activity. So 12:30 p.m. So if we want to do 12:30, well, we know our minute hand is going to go down to the 6. Now 12. If the hour is 12, so we're doing 12:30. So I just took care of the 30 part with our our hand going here, our minute hand. Now, the 12 is going to be right in between the 12 and the 1. Right there. There's our hour hand. So there's our 12:30. And that wraps up that slide. Last slide for this video, it says, write what you might be doing if it were AM or PM. So this is where our students look at the clock and we see that the time is 6 o'clock. But what we're going to do at 6 a.m. is going to be very different than what we might be doing at 6 p.m. So let your students talk about some things that they might be doing at 6 a.m. versus things they might be doing at 6 p.m. And similarly, this clock says 4:30. What might you be doing at 4:30 a.m. versus 4:30 p.m.? And that wraps up second grade Module 8, Lesson 15. We're telling time to the nearest 5 minutes, but really we're focusing on the meaning of AM and PM.
Now that you all have seen the video, we can check out our learning target again and get started on our practice set. Our learning target for today was using pictorial models of digital and analog clocks. I can tell time to the nearest 5 minutes. And as you can see, we have both analog and digital clocks pictured below. And you can walk around your house and try to figure out if the clocks there are analog or digital. So let's get started on our practice set. Your practice set today, for the first part, you're going to draw the hands on the clocks. I did put a few reminders in here. Remember that the hour hand is short and the minute hand is long. And also, if you look at B, which is what we're saying is time to be finishing your homework, is 5:55. If the minute hand is at 55, that means it's very close to the next hour. So think about that when you're drawing the hands. For the next part, you need to write what you might be doing at this time if it were AM or at this time if it were PM. And for the last part, you are writing what time is shown on the clock. So if you have a pencil and paper handy, use that. If not, you can answer the questions in your head. And now you can pause the video to complete your practice set. Okay, let's check our answers. So for drawing the hands on the clock, I forgot to circle if this was AM or PM, but that's okay because I can do it now. Let's see, brushing our teeth after you wake up. That sounds like the morning. So I would say that that is 7:10 a.m. Would you agree? And as you can see, my shorthand is a teensy weensy bit after the 7, and the longhand is on the 2 because I count by fives, o'clock, 05, 10 for 7:10. The next part, finishing your homework, 5:55. Could that be 5:55 in the morning? That sounds very, very early. I would still want to be asleep. Or 5:55 p.m. I'm going to say it's 5:55 p.m. Now, there was a special reminder with this one to remember that when the minute gets all the way to the 55, that means the hour hand is almost to the next hour. Oh my gosh, it's so close to 6, but it is not 6 o'clock yet. It is 5:55 p.m. For what I might be doing if it were AM or PM, let's check the time. Well, the hour hand is pointing to the 7 and the minute hand is pointing to the 12, so it must be 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock AM, I am walking my dog because he is ready. And at 7 o'clock PM, if I've gotten everything done for dinner, then by that time I should be cleaning up or having my family help me clean up. And the last question, what time does the clock show? I hope that no one got tricked by this. As you can see, just like in this one, the minute hand is on the 55. So that means it is almost to the next hour, but not yet. It is 3:55, but it looks like it is almost 4 o'clock, as in it will be 4 o'clock in 5 minutes. Now, a challenge for you all is to take a look at an analog clock every once in a while around your house today. And if it's 50 or 55 in the minutes, look how close that hour hand is to the next hour. Okay, great job.